this is Tim Andrews, President and Chief Executive Officer of ASI. I'm at the second day of sessions at the ASI Power Summit here in Carlsbad, California. We've had a great event, nearly 200 of the most impactful, most important people in the advertising specialty industry. Last night we had a great dinner by the pool with an announcement of the Power 50, which is coming out in Counselor Magazine the next few weeks. But we had most of the people there and had a great interaction with the Power 50, and in fact there's a session in a few minutes that I'll do a wrap-up on. But first let me just tell you about the 3 sessions we've already had this morning here at the ASI Power Summit. First of all, we had George Delta. He's Executive Director of the Incentive Foundation. And George gave us a legislative update. There's lots of legislation pending, both at the state and the federal level, that could be very impactful to the industry, unfortunately in a negative way. He covered the Physicians Payments Sunshine Act, which requires people that are giving physicians promotional items and other kinds of gifts. It requires them to actually track the value of those gifts and report it if any of that exceeds a certain amount. George also covered the Consumer Product Safety Improvements Act, which has been enacted, but the rules are still being written on how it's going to be enforced. And the biggest impact in our industry is what it does for toys or items that could be used by children under 12 years old. It requires them to have some sort of tracking information, so if there's some sort of a recall, the recipient can find out about that recall and can know that they're supposed to stop using the item. Very big impact on the industry. George also talked about how it's important that we really communicate with our legislators, both state and most importantly right now federal, because the Physicians Payments Sunshine Act is a federal pending legislation. Could be very bad for the industry. I urge you to go to asicentral.com, and type in physicians, plural, payments, plural, and pull up some information that's been in recent issues of Counselor Magazine, so you get educated about that. We also are going to be ramping up a lot of our email initiatives from ASI so that you're informed about those things, and you also know what to call your senator and talk about, or what to email about, or try to interact with. And certainly if you have a good relationship with a state or a U.S. senator or a congressman, it's very important to interact with them as frequently as you can on the topics that are important to our industry, because these are some very potential detrimental issues that we want to get dealt with before it's too late. We also had a panel this morning hosted by Michelle Bell that was some of the key recipients of our Best Places to Work award this year. So Counselor Magazine sponsors this award, and this is about the best places to work, and some of the CEOs and the other leaders of these companies giving us some of their advice on how they make their workplace really an exciting place, and this was a great panel. Lots of interaction and lots of good ideas. I'll share a few of those with you. But one of the key takeaways is that all of those individuals say they spend about 10% of their time thinking about how do they get their workforce engaged and enthused and excited all times of the year, not just at holiday times. And they also point out that you really don't have to spend that much money. Some of this stuff really doesn't cost much. For instance, Fred Albrecht talked about how he decided, as a former football player, and his son was a former football player, how he wanted to have everyone in the organization to understand football. So they did an event where they built a mini football field. They went out and got footballs. They did some practice, and they taught everybody in the company how to throw a football, and they just had a really fun time. And they also did a little event where they had to take Gatorade and pour it into a cooler with little Dixie cups. And of course, he said that there were 2 teams, and it was a tie. Or I think he won by 1 point. His team won by 1 point. But it's just a very simple thing that was a break in the day. Took a little bit of planning on Fred and some of his colleagues' time, but really was about the 2 teams being led by the way, not Fred and not Suzette, his wife, but by the people that work in the company. And so that was a really fun idea. Someone else talked about how they had a wine and cheese event. They left one day in the office and they went out and took all their employees, 20 or 30 employees, out to a park nearby and just had a little wine and cheese tasting. We also heard about iClick does something called the iOlympics, where they had chair races in the office, and also had given everyone aluminum foil and asked them to use 1 roll of aluminum foil to make something as tall as possible, a sculpture as tall as possible, and then left it in the office. So as customers were coming in, distributor customers of iClick were coming in, they could see some of the creativity in the office. But just lots of really, I think, really good ideas and things that really make people excited. And in fact, Norman Cohn, the chairman of ASI, shared one of our long-term traditions. About 50 years, the Cohn family's been giving to every employee a frozen turkey at the holiday. We also at ASI have an activity where you can either choose the turkey or you can choose a pie, a fresh baked pie, that's given to us by a charity, and we buy the pie, and that payment then funds a Thanksgiving dinner for someone. So there's probably something in your own community that you can do to help someone who needs a little help during this holiday season. But these are all simple ideas. They're not expensive, very few dollars. It's more just the time and attention and letting the employee know that you really care about them and you care about the contributions they've made. The third panel I want to cover was about marketing that works, and that was chaired by Melinda Lygos, our editor-in-chief. And the key thing there was video, video, video. Lots of marketing in 2008 and 2009 really got the ramp up going, and certainly going into 2010 was about video. And in fact, we asked the attendees at the event today, how many of you are using video and how many of you used video in 2009? And 75% said they had used video. 60% of the people in the audience said they were using social media in some sort of way. And also they're tying it back. 60% also continue to use print advertising and direct mail because they're still tying all this back and driving traffic to their websites, driving traffic to their video using print. So it's really using all three of those things to create a really integrated marketing message. And lots of good ideas from that event. One of the things that I thought was really exceptional was that MediaTree, Rob Watson, the president of MediaTree, shared with us that they launched something called MTube. And they're hosting that video, and it's all sorts of private label video that a distributor can use and send out to their end buyers. And it doesn't even mention MediaTree. It talks about the products, it talks about the different industries that you can use MediaTree products in, and it's something that a distributor can feel very confident and comfortable sending out to their end buyers. And again, very private label, MediaTree is not even mentioned, and it really allows the end buyer to get educated by the distributor on how to use cards that are loaded with valuable products as part of their promotion. So that's a wrap-up of the three main panels we had this morning. This is Tim Andrews, President and Chief Executive of ASI at the ASI Power Summit outside San Diego, California. I'll catch up with me later today and I'll do a wrap-up of the 3 days we've had here with the 200 most important people in the industry. Thank you very much.